Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a viewer. Um, Southeast Asia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. Is it a dream? Is it paradise? Or is it a nightmare? Gee, you know what? It could be all of the above. Let's talk about it.
Why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance, no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
Okay. I think it's important to understand that our opinions are based on our observations and our experiences. And that's kind of what I'm leading this into. I have to be honest with you. Each one of those countries, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, all of these countries are different with different challenges. And so it kind of depends on you. And particularly in the Philippines, it really depends on you. What we've noticed, what we've seen is that those are, for those of you that actually want to come to the Philippines, to live in the Philippines, to retire in the Philippines, or be a long-term tourist or whatever, we definitely see several categories. And I don't know why we haven't talked about it before. It requires, first off, for you to take a long, hard look at yourself. You've got to look in the mirror and you've got to determine, am I lazy or am I not? Because that is going to make a huge difference. The second thing you have to do is do I want to live in the province or do I not? And now that you've established those two things, let's look at what happens. Am I lazy? Yeah, I'm lazy. I want to live in the province. It's going to be a nightmare. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Very few people who are lazy can live in the provinces. And when I say the province, I don't mean a suburb of Manila. I don't mean something like that. I'm talking about a real provincial area, all right, a real province area. I'm talking about any place that it requires at least an hour to get to the closest McDonald's or Jollibee. That's the best way that I can say you're really in the province. If you can get to a Jollibee or McDonald's in less than an hour, you're not in the province, all right? You're in a small town, essentially. But either way, I guess you could be in the province, all right? But with that being said, living in the province is going to require much more effort on your part if you are lazy. And you're going to set things aside. Now, let's go look at the other side of the coin. Let's say I'm not lazy, but I want to live in the province. Then you have to think about, am I adaptable? Can I understand that it's going to take more for me? And this applies also even to Thailand. We don't have much experience, hardly any. I've been to Vietnam once. I've been to Cambodia once, but I couldn't give you any real living experience in Cambodia, Vietnam, or Laos. Thailand, a little bit more. Philippines, 10 years. So with all of that in place, you have to establish, am I lazy or am I not? So, but let's pretend for a minute you are lazy. Well, you can still survive comfortably if you have enough financial backing, I guess is the best word for it, to live in any of the major cities. But it's not going to be beachfront. It's not going to be those type of things. So paradise is often, in the eye. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, is what they say. Well, so is paradise. Paradise is different for you than it is for me, and it's different for my wife. You would think my wife would have loved America. Financially, we were set, no problems whatsoever. We could easily retire in the U.S., but it really wasn't her gig. And quite honestly, she really missed her family. So, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And you have to understand that you've got to be adaptable. You've got to be able to watch how these things transpire. And if you're lazy, if you do not go forward and make a life isn't going to come to you. You've got to make it. All right. Life is, all of life and its experiences are not going to come knocking at your front door. They're outside that front door. And if you don't have a method, if you don't have a reason, if you don't have the fortitude to go out. And so that brings me to what we've observed. And this is where maybe you could chime in and tell me, maybe, you might be right, Mike, or you might be wrong, or you're definitely wrong. Who knows? But what I've seen is there is a distinct generational difference. There is a big difference. Now, I am an older expat. My 10-year window, all right, is much different than really and truly a lot of other 10-year windows. In other words, my wedding ring fell off while I lost some weight or something, but for some reason the other day I was clapping, and next thing I knew, my wedding ring went flying, and Arlen grabbed it, and I guess I'm going to have to get it resized. All right. But with that being said, what I have noticed is there are definitely different objectives in different age groups. So, for instance, the objectives of 70-year-olds are much different than the objectives of 55-year-olds. And they're much different than even 60-year-olds and 45-year-olds. So what I begin to notice is that, there are nanny boys that are coming. All right. There are people that are coming that have been wards of the state, is the best word I can use. In other words, they've used every social program in Australia and in the UK and in the US and everywhere else. And they expect that they'll have opportunities the same way. Not that there'll be social programs for them here. You guys are all fully understanding that you're not a citizen, and there's no handouts even for citizens. But what I am saying is that, getting that senior citizen discount, going to the front of the line, being served on time, those things are not a given. With that being said, we see a difference in how 45-year-olds and 55-year-olds and 65-year-olds and 75-year-olds live their lives. We see a difference between those that were raised in more difficult times than those that were raised in the days of handouts. And I'm not knocking it. Don't get me wrong. If the government's going to give you money and you qualify for that money, that's great. All right. I'm all for it. I look at it just like I look at taxes. If the government's going to give me a tax break, I'm going to apply it. I don't care how absurd it is, as long as it's legal and I qualify. That's what it's there for. It's there to be used. Those things aside, what we really have to look at is it a nightmare? I mean, will you be able to adapt? Well, I think you have to take a look at a couple of different things. You have to look at where you're going to live, how you're going to live, what you're willing to invest time-wise, because that's really what it boils down to. And how lazy are you going to be? I mean, quite frankly, and I'm not knocking it, all right? And I will tell you this, I'll preface this. We don't use these methodologies, but they're very common, very, very common. You can get a driver's license, never leave the your front door, never leave your house, all right? It can be done. Corruption is rampant. Fixers are rampant. You can get damn near anything you want sitting in front of your TV watching Netflix. How lazy are you going to be? Are you going to look at, you know what's going to take me a half a day down at LTO? I got to go get 3 copies of this. I got to go do that. Or for $50, I can pay somebody to take care of all of it. All right. Sure. You know something? How lazy are you going to be? Now, maybe you would argue there's a difference between being lazy and taking advantage of the system. And I don't mean taking advantage in a negative way. What I mean is utilizing the services to take care of what you need, whichever one. I don't know. If first off, for those of you that live here or have been here or have spent time here in Southeast Asia, particularly in Thailand and in the Philippines, do you think there are definite differences between different age groups? Say 10-year windows. That's the first thing. The second thing is do you think there's a difference between those that had a military career, you know, let's call it 20 years plus, and those that don't, and how they apply themselves? Do you think there's a difference between those that live in expat communities and those that don't? What are your thoughts? I mean, do you see the same thing I think we see? Because we certainly don't want you to come over here and live a nightmare. We'd rather you come over here and live a great dream. Hey, look, comments, thoughts, please do share, hit the thumbs up, hit the notify button, all that good stuff. We'd certainly appreciate it. But more than all of that, be safe and have a great day.